And I think he just has, but they're still side by side. Massa's got up and the curb, he's spun around. Look at this, Marcus Ericsson from the lead of the race. His Ferrari engine gave up on him. And Stoffel Van Dorn, here's the problem, because of course he hasn't pitted yet. Just a few laps later in a 25% race, he has to pit. And because he was the race leader, everyone else wasn't too far behind. Julian Palmer has taken the race lead. Esteban Ocon is in second. Side by side, but Ocon is going to have the DRS. He's got the power. And I think, there you go, Ocon is going to breeze past Palmer. So, Esteban Ocon is now leading the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Julian Palmer is in second. Lance Stroll, I believe, is still in third. Lance Stroll led a massive train. In the first race, I was just ahead of it. Well, now I am firmly caught up in it. And Lance Stroll, in third place, he's just got no speed. There must be something wrong, because that is Fernando Alonso overtaking Lance Stroll at the end of a straight. Side by side with Sebastian Vettel, this is not something you would see in normal circumstances. Vettel in a Ferrari and myself in the Toro Rosso battling for 8th place. Yeah, we did finally start to see some overtakes. Mercedes, again, another case of Mercedes power versus Ferrari power. Top team versus the midfield team. Esteban Ocon is going to win the first race in this Endurance GP League. Two Mercedes-powered Williams up against a 2016 Ferrari-engined Sauber. And Lance Stroll, regardless of what you think of Lance Stroll, that was an inevitable move. Lance Stroll is leading the British Grand Prix. Locking up there, I mean, the point I should stress there is Hulkenberg passing Ericsson means that Hulkenberg is third in the Grand Prix. And what on earth is going on ahead? We've got Kvyat, and I think that's Verstappen getting involved in an incident, and they're off. Massa is in first, and there was a Renault ahead of Lance Stroll. That means that both Massa and Hulkenberg have got the jump on Stroll. And if Perez couldn't defend from Bottas, how on earth am I supposed to? Luckily, we've only got 4 laps left to go this Grand Prix. And in fact, whoa, Valtteri Bottas. This is the strange thing, as I do not know how this has happened. But at the end of the hangar straight, into Stowe, Raikkonen's locked up both wheels. I mean, I was talking as if this is a foregone conclusion that Raikkonen's taken the race lead. Well, he has millimetres ahead of Felipe Massa. I think he's got the race lead. Yeah, I think so. There's no Williams front wing in sight. And Kimi Raikkonen has taken the race lead. This is the final lap of the Grand Prix. I thought Massa had second wrapped up. Then he passed Stroll. I thought he had the lead wrapped up. Second I thought was guaranteed. It's not guaranteed because Nico Hulkenberg, on the final lap around Stowe, has just passed Felipe Massa. And Nico Hulkenberg is going to take second at Silverstone in this reverse grid race. And as you can see in the Reverse Grid Race Championship, Kimi Raikkonen and Esteban Ocon are joint leading with 25 points apiece. Lewis Hamilton, Mr. Consistent in the Reverse Grid Championship. He finished 4th in Abu Dhabi and 5th here in Britain, and he's been rewarded with 3rd in the championship. So then guys, it's PSL here, and yes, that is right. Anyone can still win the Drivers' Championship. Literally, all 20 drivers on the field, in theory, mathematically, can take the championship, subject to individual race finishing positions. Not only that, any constructor can still mathematically take the Constructors' Championship, although Sauber would need a miracle to get a 1-2 finish and Mercedes, Renault, etc. to all score very few points here. I mean, all I'm saying is, it's unlikely. The venue for the final round of the season is the Circuit of the Americas in the United States of America. Now, just before we get into the reverse grid race, there is the near impossible to decipher overall GP Endurance League Championship to work out. And so in qualifying, the overall championship leader Lewis Hamilton took pole position, and with it the full 20 points. The reverse grid championship leader of Kimi Raikkonen took second and 18 points, which ironically will be a hindrance to his reverse grid championship hopes. Bottas, Vettel, Ricciardo are the next three, and surprisingly, it isn't Verstappen after them, because he was beaten by both Force India drivers. The qualifying results are pretty standard from here on in, but I do want to point out that I qualified in 11th and got 5 points. My teammate Danny Kvyat finished 3 places lower and so scored 3 points less, and Jolyon Palmer got the last point after he bested Lance Stroll. At the start of the standard 50% distance race, Felipe Massa, who seems to try his hardest to get involved in collisions in this series, got involved in another one on the first lap of the Grand Prix, side by side with Max Verstappen going through the Maggots and Beckett's inspired section. Massa came off the worst, hitting the wall and retiring from the Grand Prix. I overtook Magnussen for 9th place, but I didn't show it because less than a minute after I did it, and as soon as the second lap started, Kevin Magnussen retired from the race with a car reliability issue. That brought the safety car out, and with it, Perez, Hamilton and Bottas all into the pits as they decided to make the most of the situation and switch onto the 2-stop strategy. I meanwhile stayed out and moved up to 6th place. Actually, I led the race for the briefest of moments, and this was before I had pitted, by the way, and as soon as I got into first, Kimi Raikkonen passed me on his recently fitted brand new ultra soft tyres, whilst I was still out on 1 super softs, having not pitted yet. So I stretched my ultra softs further than anyone else would dare, including Nico Hülkenberg, who has been near me ever since qualifying and jumped me by undercutting me during the pit phase. Eventually I did re-overtake Hülkenberg, splashing his Renault with my own Renault-powered Toro Rosso. The pains of being an engine supplier are just displayed right there. Valtteri Bottas soared past me on his fresher tyres, and then so did Hamilton. But not long after that happened, in fact, so soon afterwards that Hamilton was still in sight, Bottas had an engine failure. So that meant the leading Mercedes driver was out of the race, and we never saw how well the 2-stop strategy would have fared for him. That should have been it for my fairly uneventful race. I had a nice gap to Hülkenberg behind, and try as I might, I wasn't going to pass Esteban Ocon in the Mercedes-powered Force India. However, I did still claim 6th place at the Circuit of the Americas without passing Esteban Ocon because Max Verstappen had a car issue which hampered his pace, so much so that I was able to catch and pass him easily. Kimi Raikkonen won the American Grand Prix, and judging by his pace early on, that's not exactly a surprise. His 2-stop strategy allowed him to beat his teammate by 4 seconds, but much more impressively, Lewis Hamilton, who also stopped twice, was beaten by Raikkonen by a gargantuan 34 seconds. Jolyon Palmer finished in the top 10, but given the number of top tier drivers that did retire, it was a given that someone unexpected would end up in the top 10. As you can see on screen, this is the current Drivers' Championship in the overall GP Endurance League Championship. But I don't really know what it means and who I should be impressed by. All I can say with any real confidence is congratulations to Lewis Hamilton, who has effectively won the GP Endurance League. But aside from that, there's so many different ways to score points: reverse grid races, qualifying, normal races. It's such a muddy championship, it's hard to interpret. But what I do know, and I do understand, and I'm properly looking forward to, is the Reverse Grid Championship. As it stands, pretty much anyone can win, and to see who has the best chance of doing it, just look at the starting grid, because it is, as always, the complete reversal of the overall championship standings. Here we are on the starting grid at the Circuit of the Americas for the final reverse grid race in this championship. And there is the Reverse Grid Championship leader Kimi Raikkonen with 25 points and a race win to his name. Lewis Hamilton, he's third in the Reverse Grid Championship, just behind Raikkonen and Ocon. And unlike those two, he doesn't have a race win, but he does have 22 points and he scored points in both of the Reverse Grid races. He's definitely one to watch out for. But then again, so is everyone. Everyone, basically within reason. I think there's a couple of exceptions, but almost anyone can win the championship, the Reverse Grid Championship. And as you can see, the race strategy, 1-stop, ultra soft, super soft. You can do a 2-stop, but everyone is going to be doing a 1-stop strategy. So I'm starting in 12th on the grid, and well, I'm not sure. A Toro Rosso in 12th. My race results have been okay. Oh no, I mean, of course I'm still in contention for the Reverse Grid Championship, but so is pretty much everyone. Massa in 11th. He's in a Williams, a Mercedes-powered Williams. How am I going to get past him? Hulkenberg I'm ahead of. That's good. I was able to keep a good gap to him in the 50% race, but what about passing everyone else? It's going to be tough, but certainly there's a lot of overtaking opportunities here, so absolutely anything can happen. And the reverse grid race around the Circuit of the Americas is underway, and Felipe Massa's start isn't all that great, so I think I'm going to get past him already, up into 11th place. But look at that cluster of cars up ahead. Going to go to the inside, but could have gone further, to be honest, because if I was a bit more aggressive, I possibly could have got past Verstappen. I think there was a bit of front wing lying on the ground there. Don't know whose car that came off, but still, no, we saw what happened in the 50% race. Last time someone went side by side with Max Verstappen on the first lap, they retired instantly. I'm not making that mistake. So I'm just going to hang back for the time being, and I've made up 2 places. I passed Massa and Magnussen. Massa had a poor start. Magnussen was just hung out to dry on the outside of the first corner and late on the brakes, but no, around the outside that's going to be tough to do, especially as he's in the bigger car with a better car. You know, this is the junior Red Bull team versus the senior Red Bull team. There's just no way I was going to do it around the outside of the corner. To be honest, actually doing it down a straight I wouldn't have anticipated. We've both got the same engine, both got a Renault engine, but I got past fairly easily, actually late on the brakes as well, and that was actually a surprisingly easy move made on Max Verstappen, but locking up there, so that's given Verstappen the opportunity to repass me. But there you go, this is my special line, just hanging to the inside line, which isn't quick, but it gives you plenty of room to actually make overtakes. And yeah, it wasn't the quickest line around that corner, but it did allow me to repass Max Verstappen. So let's take a look at the race start. You've got Lance Stroll, who once again, much like in Silverstone, is starting high up the field because his championship overall hasn't been all that great, and already up into 2nd place, side by side with this Sauber driver, and that was easy. Williams versus a Sauber, that was not exactly much competition, and there you go, Lance Stroll is leading the American Grand Prix. So there you go. I mean, last time Lance Stroll led a reverse grid race, he bottled it. Strategy. And, well, we'll have to wait and see if that's the case this time. Kvyat also starting higher because his championship hasn't been all that great. I've certainly been the better Toro Rosso driver. And Kvyat, kind of similar to Lance Stroll. Kvyat just started a bit further back and then just made up 1 less place. So effectively it was just the same thing there. As you can see, this is a replay of my move on Max Verstappen. So as you can see, later on the brakes, now, the move was done, effectively. I mean, Verstappen's still there, but then I lock up. Actually, I'll be honest, from that angle, it did look like Verstappen tapped me. I certainly didn't feel anything when I was driving, but there you go. Just a really tight, hugging the apex inside line. And there you go. There's just so much room to make an overtake there that is how I was able to repass Verstappen and actually got close to the back of that Haas driver there, Romain Grosjean as well. So 9th place already into a points position, and of course because this is a reverse grid race, we've got lots of the slower cars up ahead, such as the McLaren Hondas. Fernando Alonso, yeah sure, he's got a podium finish in this reverse grid race championship, but that was an exceptional race, I'll be honest. And well, actually Alonso, I thought he was done. I thought Grosjean had passed him, but Alonso just benefiting from the 2 inside lines he had from those right-handers, and he's passed Grosjean, and then Grosjean just had to kind of back out of that. I passed him up into 8th place, so Fernando Alonso actually kind of helped me to get past Grosjean, which is kind of just a strange turn of events. But there you go, 8th place, and I've still got a slow car ahead of me. Not a slow driver, not by any means. I'm not underestimating Fernando Alonso, but that McLaren Honda, I certainly am. And apparently also the brakes on that McLaren Honda, as Alonso just locked up the front left heading into the first corner. 7th place, I'm now in. Jolyon Palmer is up ahead. Now he's finished 2nd in this reverse grid race championship back in Abu Dhabi. Certainly not one to underestimate. And actually in the reverse grid championship, Palmer with that 2nd place finish is quite high up. But now look at this. This is of course exactly the sort of scenario you get. Palmer he couldn't get past Ericsson or Van Dorn because those two were side by side with each other, so Palmer had to hang back. I then was able to just get past him on the brakes, and actually that was... Don't tell me I've made that move stick. I think I have actually. Again, just hanging, sticking to the inside line. There's loads of space on the left-hand side, and I made the move. And that's a corner which normally isn't really too much of an overtaking opportunity, but if you hang to the left-hand side, there's so much space that you can sort of like... You can almost get into this scenario where you either overtake someone or T-bone them. Thankfully, both times I've done it, I've been able to overtake them. And there is Van Dorn, the onboard. We were just behind it anyway, but there is the onboard from Van Dorn getting past Ericsson. And speaking of Van Dorn, there he is. I think we're going to get past him relatively easily. Just the next time there's a DRS straight or any sort of straight or any sort of prolonged period of full acceleration, I think we'll get past Van Dorn, or maybe around this corner. I'll tell you what, Van Dorn, I did cut the corner a little bit to be fair, but Van Dorn did leave a lot of space actually, so very generous, and I wouldn't be that generous, not if I was battling for 4th place. 4th place, it could soon be 3rd, because there is still a Sauber. Look at that. Kvyat is just up ahead. I've caught up to my teammate. Yes, I've been plainly the quicker Toro Rosso driver, but I'm not that much quicker than Kvyat, and the problem is Kvyat, Lance Stroll's nowhere to be seen. Lance Stroll has galloped off because Kvyat cannot for the life of him get past Verline. I think, what are we on the 6th lap of the Grand Prix? I think Kvyat might finally do it. I mean, side by side, it could have gone later on the brakes, but also, no, I don't think he's going to do it even this lap, because Verline with a double right-hander, he's got the inside line, and Kvyat, I don't think he's going to hang to the left like I do. He's not going to do that quite strange line, and no, he isn't. And in fact, actually, no, this was on the previous lap when I was getting past Van Dorn. So, yeah, so Kvyat, that was the previous lap. Kvyat was struggling to get past Verline. I think he might finally do it this lap. Yeah, he's got the outside line, but that will soon become the inside for the double right-hander. He actually broke a bit later. Yeah, Verline, he's got no defence to that. Kvyat finally is in 2nd place. It's just a shame that it's taken him this long to do it, and from a personal perspective, I mean, the team will be loving this, but from a personal perspective, if I was Kvyat, it's not great that by the time he caught up to Verline, I caught up to him and I started way further down the field. But now I've got to get past Verline. Lap 6 of the Grand Prix. Actually, before I even have to worry about that, I am going to come into the pits. Lap 6, obviously it makes sense. 6 laps on the softer ultra softs, and then 8 laps on the super softs, because I know in the 50% race I did call the super softs the ultra softs, so just try and make sure that I correctly name the tyre compounds, and that's going to get more tricky with next year's game as well with the hyper softs now. But pit stop done, ultra soft to super soft. Raikkonen's ahead of me, but he still needs to pit. Max Verstappen is ahead of me, and he must have pitted as well. So that's, well, he's either pitted or I'm almost a pit stop ahead of him. We'll have to wait and see. But yes, down to 8th place, but there's still lots of people who need to pit. And Jolyon Palmer, someone who should have pitted earlier, he's got a rear puncture, and that's not good. I mean, Jolyon Palmer, definitely a championship contender. 18 points in the reverse grid championship, only 7 off the leaders. He was starting towards the front. He was in a Renault, decent car, and Palmer could have scored points, decent points at that. Not anymore. Pirelli have let him down, so Palmer is effectively out of the championship. By the time he crawls back to the pits, he's going to be nowhere near the points positions. So, again, still pretty much anyone is in contention.
Right, some information on Grosjean. They have an issue with their car. They're going to be slow.
Romain Grosjean has got an issue with his car, and Grosjean's just behind me. And, well, that issue has allowed Ocon to get past. I mean, that issue, I don't think it was a braking issue. You don't really get them in the game. That was just a genuine mistake from Grosjean. No, that was an engine issue which allowed Ocon to get past even easier than you would expect him to. But that's not great. Grosjean behind me, that was fine. I was confident of keeping Grosjean behind me. Ocon behind me. Well, in the 50% race, Ocon was ahead of me, and I could sort of keep touch of him, but I wasn't catching up to him. Never mind was I going to pass him, and now roles are reversed, but Ocon's quicker than me. That was proven in the 50% race. Kvyat has come out of the pits, and there you go. He's still just ahead of me, so I did not get the undercut on my teammate. But Max Verstappen, as we suspected, I mean, there was a kind of a vague hope that he was going to have to come into the pits again, but no. We saw when I exited the pits, he jumped me. He's made a stop. He is in second place. Lance Stroll is leading. Verstappen second. Kvyat third. I'm in fourth, and you've got Raikkonen in ninth, the championship leader. I'm just looking for the people, because of course Raikkonen is the championship leader. Ocon is just ahead, and Ocon has got the same points total as Raikkonen, and it's just, there's so many people who could still win the championship. Van Dorn's got no points to his name, so he would have to win the Grand Prix to even have the vaguest hope, but that's just not going to happen, especially with Raikkonen in ninth, and especially as Ocon is about to pass Stoffel Van Dorn. So there you go. So Ocon moving up another position, but there is a Mercedes driver behind. That is, I believe, actually Valtteri Bottas behind. And if he gets past Van Dorn, I don't think Van Dorn's going to put up too much resistance, and he doesn't. So you've got Ocon, who's made up another position. He's still behind me. I've still got to watch out for Ocon. But the Mercedes driver behind, I believe, that is Valtteri Bottas. Yes, it is. I did recognise the helmet. I didn't think that was Hamilton's helmet, and yes, Valtteri Bottas. Now this is worrying, because Hamilton third in the reverse grid championship, but Bottas is still very much up towards the front as well. Silverstone, Bottas did exceptionally well, and there you go. That was worryingly easy, because that means Bottas is the next driver behind me. And Grosjean, don't tell me there's more difficulties for Grosjean. Well, actually, it's still the same issue. It's his engine issue. His teammate has just breezed past him like it was nobody's business. There's a salvage trying to get past, and was that a silver car? Was that a Mercedes? I think that might have been. So that must be Lewis Hamilton. So what's going on there? Grosjean has just taken out Marcus Ericsson. Hamilton speared into the side of Ericsson and has made the overtake. Well, okay, that was, I mean, Grosjean, I'm surprised that he's pulling up so much resistance, because Grosjean, he's got the engine issue. We've already established that. I'm not massively happy about that, because he unleashed Ocon by doing so, but he's also unleashed chaos. Look at that. Ericsson to his left, Hamilton to his right. There's, I think that's Vettel just behind as well. And Ocon tags Ericsson, spins him around. Hamilton spears into Ericsson. I mean, I appreciate in a 25% distance reverse grid race where pretty much anyone can win a championship in what is, you know, only a 3-race championship. You've got to make overtakes, you've got to make them quickly, and you can't really be too cautious about it. But there's a difference between being cautious and being reckless, and I think Hamilton kind of crossed that line. Yes, he took the opportunity. Ericsson, we'll just see, minding his business, passing Grosjean, and there goes Hamilton. And I mean, Hamilton, he saw Ericsson wasn't moving, would have been an easy overtake, and it was an easy overtake, but he could have done it without damaging his own car. And as you can see, Stoffel Van Dorn was vaguely in contention for the championship. I think race positions let him down anyway. And actually, the Mercedes, no, not the Mercedes, they wish they had the Mercedes engine. No, the Honda engines let him down. And as he pulls off the circuit to retire, he just crashed into Ricciardo. Well, that was strange. So Ricciardo, you can see vaguely off in the distance. Van Dorn to the left, Massa to the right. Van Dorn has the engine issue. Massa creates a bit of smoke because Massa has a massive lockup. Van Dorn lets Massa through, not Ricciardo. And Ricciardo, I'm not sure if he gets a bit of front wing damage. Maybe the bit of front wing damage was on Van Dorn's car. Oh yeah, also I should mention it, because I didn't include it, just to save a bit of time. You know, I said there was a bit of front wing that was lying on the track after we rounded the first corner on the first lap. That came off Alonso's car. And I think actually Grosjean got involved in that crash. So that means both McLaren cars have lost bits of their front wing. And this is deja vu. We had this first corner. Actually, that at Silverstone, Bottas passed me heading into the first corner. Now in America, Bottas passed me heading into the first corner. That was, you know, I mean, what could I have done to stop that? DRS, power disadvantage. Yeah, there's nothing I could do. But Raikkonen, I'll be honest, I'm not going to win the championship. It was unlikely I was ever going to. My intention was not to win the championship, to be honest. My intention was to get the gold medal in this championship. But yeah, Bottas passing me, Raikkonen, the championship leader, passing me. And with Raikkonen passing me, that must mean that he's passed Ocon. And, I mean, subject to all the different positions, because of course Lance Stroll is still leading the race. Max Verstappen hasn't done too well, but he's second currently in the Grand Prix. Kvyat, I don't think is in the running. I'm not in the running. Kvyat, also by letting Bottas through, has compounded the fact that he is no way in the running to win the championship. That means Bottas is third in the American Grand Prix, and I think soon Kimi Raikkonen is going to be fourth. It's just a case of how many points does Lance Stroll already have, and the 25 points that Lance Stroll will get from winning the race, is that enough to overtake Kimi Raikkonen in the championship? As it stands, Kimi Raikkonen, assuming he gets past Kvyat, but side by side, please don't let there be a crash. It's Kvyat and Raikkonen side by side. This is where Massa retired during the 50% race through the Beckett inspired section, and they've both kept it on, but I think Kvyat has defended the place. No, right-hander, we're heading into a left-hander, so Kvyat might be able to defend the place, but he hasn't. Thank God we've had no collisions there, because that would have been devastating for Kimi Raikkonen to lose the championship based on a collision with Kvyat, but he is still in the running. Max Verstappen to get past Lance Stroll, lap after lap after lap. He has tried so many times to get past Lance Stroll, and I think he is finally going to do it. Late on the brakes, he's got a few feet advantage inside line. There's no Lance Stroll, and there you go. Verstappen solidified the race lead, but Lance Stroll with the Mercedes engine. Slower car, more power. He could potentially come back. This is another replay of that move. And, I mean, we saw Max Verstappen. He overtook me. He jumped me in the pits. He passed Kvyat not long afterwards. And it's just been so many laps. Verstappen slowly catching up to Stroll, and then slowly, eventually, after so many laps, being able to pull off a move on Lance Stroll. That was finally done on the second to last lap. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix. What does that do for the championship? Who knows? All eyes are on Kimi Raikkonen, also Esteban Ocon, but Ocon is behind Raikkonen, so Ocon it's too little too late. The second Raikkonen passed Ocon, that was it. That was Ocon's hopes dashed, and now this is just for pride. Ocon can't win the championship, but of course he will want to score as many points as he can to finish as high up in the championship as he can, but so do I. 6th place. I've done respectably well in this championship so far. Also, I want to make sure I beat Kvyat in the championship, because Kvyat, a good few seconds ahead of me at this point. He's beaten me in the American Grand Prix. Should have beaten me, I'll be honest, in Silverstone if he didn't crash with Verstappen. But speaking of which, Max Verstappen has won the American Grand Prix, and I've defended successfully from Esteban Ocon to take 6th in the reverse grid race around the circuit of the Americas. The crucial thing is, who finished 2nd, who finished 3rd, and who finished 4th. This is all on the final lap of the Grand Prix, so here we go, the final lap of the Grand Prix. Lap 13, Stroll was passed by Max Verstappen. On the last lap, Lance Stroll is still holding 2nd. Raikkonen a couple of seconds back, but I think Valtteri Bottas with the DRS, the same engine, inside line, and in fact actually way before the braking zone, Bottas was able to just pass, cut inside, take the racing line. There you go. Bottas is in 2nd. What does that do for Bottas's championship hopes? I do not know. There's so many drivers scoring so many different points, and they're all so close to each other. In the championship, there's a maximum of 25 points separating any driver. So it's so difficult to say, but you know, this is important. There's a distinction here. If Kimi Raikkonen finishes 4th, he scores 12 points. If he finishes 3rd, he scores 15 points, and those 3 points could make all the difference around the final corner. I think Kimi Raikkonen is just taken 3rd from Lance Stroll going around the final corner of the final lap. So that means the race finishing positions: Max Verstappen won the American Grand Prix, Valtteri Bottas took 2nd on the final lap, and Kimi Raikkonen took 3rd on the final corner. Well, talk about leaving it late. I think Raikkonen gave himself, about 2 or 3 seconds to spare? Wow, oh wow. But yes, before we check the championship standings, before we dwell on the overall championship, let's dwell on the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen, the third different race winner in the Reverse Grid Championship. In the first round, it was Ocon. In the second round, it was Raikkonen. In the third round, it's Max Verstappen. And Verstappen, overall in the GP Endurance League, Verstappen's time hasn't been all that great. So it's nice to see him end on a high. And then you've got Fins in second and third. So there you go. Bottas with 18 points. Raikkonen with 15. Lance Stroll, Kvyat, myself. Ocon in 7th. Ricciardo, Massa, Magnussen scoring the final point. Lewis Hamilton didn't score any points. Neither did Vettel. Vettel down in 13th. And I think what happens is the driver number 2s in both Mercedes and Ferrari, i.e. Raikkonen and Bottas, I think the driver number 2s pitted on what would be the less preferential lap, but because it's a 25% race, basically I think the driver number 2s did a different strategy to the driver number 1s. That gave Raikkonen and Bottas the advantage. We sort of saw that happen in Silverstone as well, actually. But there you go, Lewis Hamilton won the GP Endurance League, but as I already said, this championship, how are you supposed to interpret it? How are you supposed to? It says I finished 8th though in the championship, so I don't think that's good enough for the gold medal for Toro Rosso. I think you need to finish 7th. I think, but look, Van Dorn, Ericsson, Verline still didn't score any points. And there you go, in the GP Endurance League, Mercedes won the Constructors' Championship, Ferrari, Red Bull, Force India, Toro Rosso in 5th. That's nice, but ultimately, that's not what we're here for. What we're here for is who won the Reverse Grid Race Drivers' Championship. And I can tell you, the man who won it is Kimi Raikkonen with 40 points. There you go, Kimi Raikkonen won the Reverse Grid Drivers' Championship on F1 2017. Yes, it's only a 3-race championship, and I'm sorry about that. I wish the game allowed you to do multiple Reverse Grid Race, like a longer form Reverse Grid Race Drivers' Championship. It would be interesting to see it done over the whole season, but certainly in Abu Dhabi, Silverstone and America, that mini 3-race championship, Kimi Raikkonen came out on top, beating his fellow countryman of Valtteri Bottas in 2nd. Also, it's nice, Kimi Raikkonen, he's never won a Reverse Grid Championship until now, but Kimi Raikkonen, just a little bit of Reverse Grid trivia, Kimi Raikkonen won the first, for want of a better term, he won the first canonical Reverse Grid race. F1 Championship Edition, Race 1, Bahrain, he dominated that Grand Prix. Never won a championship, but he has won one now, 11 seasons later. Raikkonen, Bottas, Esteban Ocon in the Force India, 3rd in the Drivers' Championship. I'm sure Force India will be elated with that, as will Esteban Ocon. Max Verstappen showing that all you really need is one good race result. Not to win the championship, but to finish high up in the championship, especially with a point system like the one we currently have, where the points you get for winning a Grand Prix are so much higher than you get for finishing in all the other positions, which is how Max Verstappen, just winning this Grand Prix, bested Lewis Hamilton, who did well in the previous 2 Grand Prix. So Hamilton, the much better driver over the course of the entire championship, and actually kind of overall, probably if you look at the results of all the Reverse Grid races, Hamilton did better on average, but he scored fewer points. Both Renault drivers, both on 18 points in 6th and 7th. Hulkenberg beating Palmer based off race finishing positions. Lance Stroll, at least he finally had a properly decent final Grand Prix. At least he mostly delivered in the American Grand Prix. And all the people who beat him in COTA had quicker cars. So there you go. Unlike at Silverstone where Lance Stroll just effectively threw away a race win. 8th in the overall championship, he beat his teammate Fernando Alonso in the McLaren Honda, 10th in the championship with 15 points. He's beaten Magnussen, he's beaten myself. Ricciardo only got 13 points. It looked like he was going to beat Verstappen, and then Verstappen got a race win. That's all you really need. Kvyat in 14th, finally got some decent points come the end. Grosjean with 8 points. Perez in 16th, only scored 4 points. Vettel in 17th, only scored 1 point. But to be fair, he did still do better than Van Dorn, Ericsson and Verline, who all scored no points. For the Sauber drivers, not too much of a disappointment, I suppose. Van Dorn, I guess it is slightly annoying because Alonso did finish 3rd in the Reverse Grid race in Abu Dhabi, but to be fair, Van Dorn messed up the strategy big time in Abu Dhabi, and actually if he hadn't have done, and Verline made the same mistake, if those two hadn't have done, they probably would have scored points. And in fact, if Ericsson hadn't had the engine failure, the safety car would never have come out, Ericsson would still have been in the running, and then Van Dorn nor Verline could have screwed up their race strategy. And then you've got the Constructors' Championship, and here it is. Mercedes, Ferrari, Red Bull. I'm not joking, this is the reverse grid race Constructors' Championship. I haven't made a mistake. I mean, both Mercedes drivers just did quite well. Raikkonen scored all the points for Ferrari. Raikkonen did so well that he just beat a lot of the other teams. Red Bull, well, Verstappen did well here. Ricciardo's been kind of, just scoring a handful of points. Just getting a few, enough to put Red Bull third in the championship. But yeah, there's not much to say because this is the reverse grid race Constructors' Championship, and it's basically the same as the real life Constructors' Championship. Literally the only difference to the real life championship is that Renault beat Williams and Force India. But to be fair, all three of those teams are quite similar in terms of overall pace, and Force India and Williams were both only 1 point behind Renault. So it's not exactly a far cry to imagine Renault finishing where they did in real life, which was 6th and not 4th, which is where they finished in this reverse grid championship. So much for the reverse grids. They have done absolutely nothing. I mean, yes, you could argue that some teams are proportionately closer to others, but again, I would just use the argument that we've only done 3 races. In real life, there were 20. And yes, I think that is everything. I am sorry for completely wasting your time with this series because the Constructors' Championship is pretty much exactly the same as it was in real life. So this has been a complete and utter waste of time, but no, in all honesty, I really do hope that you guys did enjoy this championship. The videos are quite long, the championship was quite strange, but interesting, I hope. And I'll see you guys for... Oh yes, I will be doing one final series on F1 2017, a return to something I've already previously done. And hopefully that will be coming out in the very near future. So yes, I'll see you guys then.